Just how absurdly good is Crossout Designator? Let's find out, shall we? Make sure you guys smash the crap out of the subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more awesome content. So we're going to go in depth. We're going to look at some of the OCG metagame, and we're going to see just how interestingly good Crossout Designator is going to be. So of course, Crossout Designator, all right, whether or not we get it in the 10s this year, declare one card name. Banish one card from your deck. And if you do, until the end of... banish one card with that card name from your deck. Alright, until the end of this turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of cards with the same original name. You can only activate one Crossout Designator per turn. Technically, when your opponent Crossout Designator's you can chain your Crossout Designator to blank their Crossout Designator. Alright, so that's one level of management that you're going to need to know about. And two, this card's going to warp deck building in a very interesting light. Okay, so the lists we're going to look at are going to be more metagame streamlined, but when you kind of start getting into like the more degenerate side of things, it's kind of interesting because you will see how players will play these one-ofs in the more competitive scene. And that's why I say it's going to bring that interesting dynamic here to the TCG, because now you're going to start seeing things like, does Praying Kids play one Nibiru so they can't get Nibiru and they open up the Crossout Designator? That is a very highly likely scenario that you will see. And you're going to start to see these decks teching these weird offshoot cards to do this. But the other thing I want to show here with these lists from the OCG is not every deck is playing Crossout Designator. I'm hearing a giant misconception from a lot of players that are going, oh, this card's an absolute staple, like you need to play 3 of it. Not true at all. While the card is very, very powerful, and while some of the early builds in the OCG did play it, it is not a mandatory card by any stretch of the imagination. You are still able to build these boards. You're still able to play the game in a regard that allows you to do what you are meant to do. And we'll show that here in a second, as you know, the card does warp the format in that deck building process, but not into the absolutely terminal, ha ha ha, like this card is absurd. So the first list I want to show here is a list for more of the modernized crapshoot of Sword Soul here. Now you're going to notice, of course, that this build is maxing out on the triple Crossout Designator, but also let's look at the one-ofs here. So we have one Effect Veiler here, you have the one Ghost Spell, and then of course you're maxing out on the things that should be normal, like the triple copies of the Maxi, the triple copies of the Ash Blossom, and then you can even go so far as to blank like your Vandy's Emptiness as well. We don't have that here. You have many lines of play here, but in terms of deck building and things like that, you see these one-ofs like Veiler, these Ghost Spells here. While you can adjust and not have to deal with those, but if like a more niche hand trap comes up, you got a deck build for that situation. That's why you see the one Droll down there in the side deck, because in the situation where your opponent drolls you and you open up the Crossout Designator, you can blow them out of the water by negating it. Alright, like it's absolutely kind of hilarious what you can do with Crossout Designator in the sense of, oh no, like now I can side one of hand traps. Oh face, you know? So that's interesting. I definitely found that, like, in the super heavy meta builds, like, oh no, like I gotta play bad hand traps. Yeah, but they're one-ups. So that's where you kind of get like the more niche situations. It's almost like you hurt your consistency for that payoff of getting that negate. All right, let's go take a look at a virtual world list here. Now, virtual world in the OCG is a little bit different than ours. All right, it's a little bit more toxic. All right, they do have True King of All Calamities. We don't. All right, but when you look at this deck, you're going to see the same thing here. We have triple Crossout Designator, but this build isn't doing anything too crazy in the regard of playing one-ofs here to amount to situations. The only one-of that you're going to take note of is going to be down there in the side deck, and it's going to be Lancia. That way you can Crossout Designator straight out of the deck, and bada bing, bada boom. Ah, I didn't get Lancia anymore. Alright, you basically now have... Oh, well, actually, this is also interesting. They're also playing the one talents here. So now you can set up your field here. Alright, and then you can Crossout Designator the talents if you need as well. All right, so you have two interesting options there, besides, you know, the standard shenanigans of blanking hand traps like the Maxis and the Ash Blossom. So, stray hand traps? Yeah, stray hand traps. All right, next up here, the next list here is a 3v3. This was a Phantom Knight list playing the new Aquamancer Brave Token archetype, but what are we doing for stray hand traps here, if anything? Not really much. All right, we already have the Ash Blossoms and the Maxis in there, standard stuff. All right, Crossout Designator, we have the Fog Blades. The only thing we're really doing here is, we're stopping with infinite permanence. Oh, so we don't want our opponent to resolve that key card. Ah, yes, I love one-ofs. Basically, it's really cool when you can cross out Designator, negate an imperm, negate those Ash Blossoms, negate those Maxis. Alright, we have the double, well, okay. Getting Artifact Lancet in this deck is really stinky. Same thing with, you know, losing to a random Nibiru here. But as we step forward here, depending on what happens on potential list as well, will Crossout Designator be impacted? We'll talk about that in a second here. So let's look at lists that aren't playing Crossout Designator right now. The Eldritch Zombie Border Stun list. Well, this deck doesn't need to worry about playing something as absurd as Crossout Designator because you have Inspector Borders, alright? More of like your combo-based decks that like to go off. This build's actually taking advantage of the new Sky Prison that allows you to protect your back row. In terms of metagame breakers, this deck really just doesn't have a use for Crossout Designator. While it could potentially help it, you're already bulking down your deck with draw power, things that go with your deck's core strategy. Crossout Designator is kind of just made for those flex spots, and decks that can kind of handle it. Alright, another list here, another good example here is, you know, look at Drytron in the OCG. How are you going to fit this into the deck? Alright, if you're going to try to put crossouts in this, you're going to extend your deck beyond, you know, the 40 cards. Which means at that point in time, you're just going to hurt consistency, and that's not going to be necessarily something that you want to do with doing that. So that should give you a little bit of a walkthrough here on some of the just sprinkle icing on the cake here for some of the interactions in the OCG format. So should prove to you guys that you don't have to play it. But I do want to go back here and once again say this. Crossout Designator is a card that is meant to handle those key situations that can ruin your day. Alright, Nibiru's, Ghost Spells, Effect Veilers. You did see that one of the builds was playing these niche cards, which means that in deck building here, you're going to have access to like a Droll in the side deck, you know, one of Nibiru. And I've seen this in the OCG, but once again, these one-ofs can come up at bad times. They can hurt you because you have to play them in order to make sure that your combo can go off. Crossout Designator just allows you to have more of those going second options. That's why I always kind of mention this with Talents. While Talents is a very good card in the right situation, in a situation where your opponent's not activating monster effects for you to be able to Talents feels like a really bad card. And I know most people that have played Talents will pretty much say the exact same thing here, that it's kind of bad in certain situations. Other situations it's amazing, alright? But you're putting a patch on a wound for the potential for it to work out, and I'm just, at this point in time, just going to say that it's good. It's almost Talents level in my opinion, and I know a lot of players are going to play this card, and a lot of players are going to have the opinion of, oh, Crossout Designator is bad. I cannot wait to read those opinions, and players are going to get roasted. I'm one of those people. I think Crossout's a good card, but not in every situation. It warps deck building in a way that can both be good and bad, and I'm just saying that I could see this going south really quickly for a lot of people. So guys, what do you think about Crossout Designator? Do you think, besides like, yeah, it will have a huge impact both on deck building and deck design, but do you think it will be crazy? What decks do you think will take advantage of it? Will be more of the combo-esque decks? Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I always love reading the cool comments that always love roasting me on these things. But I'll see your beautiful faces back here later on the day with some more cool, awesome content. You guys have a good rest of your day. All right, peace out, guys. Thank you, patrons, for making the ride never truly end. Without you guys' support, well, I would probably be doing Truffle Shuffle videos for a living. Guys, please check out VanCole40 for all of your Cardfight Vanguard content brought to you by MCole40. And if you are looking to pick up singles, check out mcolegames.com for your trading card game needs. Thanks for watching, everybody.